Have you noticed any of the hair changes yet? You may not. This is too early.
Yeah, well, my hair is growing back. So
what?
it's
you were holding up. You were holding out on us. Hey, everybody. Welcome today. Today, we have an interview with Val, and you're going to learn a lot about how to deal with a lot of scalp skin issues and anxiety. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you're interested in learning more about the program and working with us, there's a link above this video where you can start a chat with our team. So we're going to go ahead and get started right now. Hey, Val, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, everybody. My name is Val. I am 57 years old. I'm a mother of 5, and I am very, very active. I'm a 10-time marathon runner and all into anything and everything I can get myself into. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, okay, Val. So what diagnosis or symptoms have you been struggling with?
Well, in December of 2020, I was diagnosed with dermatomyositis. And I had a rash that covered probably 80% of my body, and in super, super intense scalp pain, and subsequently lost about 80% of my hair. And just in the beginning, a lot of fatigue and just incredible anxiety. Like just off the charts anxiety.
So this is really apropos timing, because right now, right in the news right now, at the time of this recording, we just recently had what happened with Jada Pinkett Smith. This whole issue with autoimmune related skin issues that really can impact upon your scalp, your hair, alopecia, hair loss is huge, and it's very timely. So on the whole, this is a diagnosis that a lot of people don't realize how bad it can be, how much of an impact. People think, oh, it's just hair loss. So I really want to blow the lid open on how serious of a medical issue it is, how people don't really understand the cause of this, and what a real solution really looks like here. And just because someone's a celebrity or have tons of money or works with some of the top functional doctors on the planet doesn't mean that they actually were able to solve this problem. And I love to demonstrate a real life example of somebody who's solving this problem. So Val, let's back up a bit. You said 80% hair loss.
Yes.
Okay. Besides 80% hair loss, what else?
Intense scalp pain before the hair loss for about 6 weeks. Intense.
Mm-hmm.
Can't even describe how bad it was, but it was bad. Anxiety, where my resting heart rate in the morning, because I'm a runner, I'm used to following it, was about 30 beats above normal for 3 straight months. So I felt like I was having a heart attack all the time.
And it's not even just pain. You mentioned like itching as well, correct?
The itching came later. The itching came after the hair loss, but has been pretty much 24/7 for the last about 14 months.
Okay. So question, how long did it take for you to even get the diagnosis or understand that this is autoimmune, which is the most common cause of alopecia, by the way, everybody?
My husband, who's a pharmacist, actually diagnosed me before my dermatologist did. Because he just did so much research behind all of my symptoms that I was having. Yeah. And then a dermatologist, after a biopsy, it was about 3 months after my initial rash started that I was given a diagnosis, which I thought was actually pretty quick.
Yeah, it is really quick.
But at the time, I read that it was autoimmune, but I didn't really understand, what that meant.
Bingo. My question also is, what did you think your dermatologist's understanding of the fact that this is an autoimmune related head, scalp, skin condition? What was their understanding about it being an autoimmune issue?
Well, they didn't really know what caused it. That was their number one thing. That's your number one question whenever you get diagnosed with something is what caused this?
I know what caused this. You know what caused it. Why don't they know?
I had a slew of doctors. I had rheumatologists, cardiologists, neurologists, dermatologists, my regular doctors, my OBGYN. And all of them said, well, they just threw their hands up and they said, it's so rare. We have no idea what to do.
It's not so rare. It's not so rare.
Well, and having some experience in the medical field, I was seriously questioning because I had just gone through menopause 6 months prior.
Bingo.
And I said,
hormones triggered this.
And I said to my GYN, I said, I have a feeling this is hormone related. I need a full hormone panel. And she said, my GYN said, you don't have any hormones left. There's nothing to test.
Bullshit. Oh my God, that makes me so mad. That makes me mad. That makes my blood boil because it's not true.
And now that I've gone through the program, I want to scream for the mountaintops, basically. That it's just absurd that even a GYN specializing in women's postmenopausal psychiatric disorders does not address this issue. It's crazy to me.
It is the standard of care.
It's the standard of care.
It's the standard, what we call the excellent care, excellent standard of conventional medicine care that we're getting. And you're the direct recipient of this. I mean, you have an advantage, I guess, to most people in terms of the fact that you have a husband who's a pharmacist. You also had education and you were thinking outside the box. A lot of people just accept what their doctor says is gospel. And the problem is so many people rely on their doctors to diagnose or understand cause, or they think their doctor is here to fix the cause. And their doctors literally know nothing about autoimmunity, nothing. Before you joined this program, when you watched my videos, did it completely affirm to you that hormones totally is a trigger of autoimmunity?
Well, listening to a lot of the testimonials, it was helping to cement my thinking in that, being healthy for 56 years, and then all of a sudden my body just going wonky. I had no other explanation, and watching the testimonials really kind of sealed the deal that, there is more to this. Although watching the testimonials didn't necessarily give me data, it just kind of helped me realize that, wow, a lot of people are being helped by this program.
Okay. So fast forward, you've been struggling with this issue for a while. What were your offers from your conventional doctors? What was their treatment?
Well, I saw several different doctors. My regular physician and my dermatologist were basically throwing steroid creams at me and ointment, which did not work, by the way.
If they worked, great, right?
It didn't work at all. It just made my skin so thin that I was getting ulcers in my skin because it was getting so thin. And then after, having some, severe hair loss, the rash was just so bad. That I finally was seen in person. Doctors weren't wanting to see people because of the pandemic. So when I was finally seen in person, and the jaw dropped of my dermatologist when she took one look at me, she said, "Oh, we need to get you on oral steroids." So along came the prednisone, which didn't work, and then the methylprednisolone, which really kind of sort of worked, and then the Plaquenil. And then I finally just said, you know what, I'm not taking methotrexate. I have to find a different path.
Well, here's the thing. If they offered you medication and that solved the problem, okay, there is a place for medication, right? But the fact of the matter is, did it solve the problem, and did it cause unwanted side effects? That's my question for you.
Well, the side effects were probably the worst part. Methylprednisolone was actually working to calm down the rash. But I developed two consequences from it. I developed a hump at the base of my neck, which was quite pronounced, and it's from prednisone.
We actually call it a steroid hump. Yeah.
So one day I noticed it and I thought, what the heck? I'm turning into the Hunchback of Notre Dame here. Yeah. And I'm still dealing with it, suffering from major constipation problems.
Okay.
And I've been off of methylprednisolone since about June.
Okay. So long lasting side effects. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then let's fast forward. You joined this program 2 months ago. Okay. You recently just graduated. This is just in a span of 2 months, everybody. And I want you guys to understand our program, Transform Autoimmune, is a 2-month online program that launches you into a year of autoimmune turnaround. So this is literally the tip of the iceberg, first results. Okay. So what are your results so far?
Well, I think my most pronounced result is control of my anxiety.
Okay. Unexpected result.
Unexpected results. The rash. Now, I will tell you, one thing that really gave me a lot of hope, because during the program, we did the food mapping and the hormones, and I've been convinced for many years that I have adrenal fatigue, and no doctor ever wanted to address it.
Why?
ever.
Because they don't know it exists.
No. And they, they would say, oh, we'll do a cortisol test on you. Oh, your cortisol level is fine.
Wait a minute. Let's pause right there. The only testing conventional doctors have for adrenals is for either Cushing's or Addison's. Crazy ass high adrenals or zero adrenals. They don't have a test and they don't have any training for adrenal fatigue, which is all the gray in the middle. Okay. So they tested her cortisol or did a dexamethasone challenge test and says, your adrenals are fine. No, just because you don't have crazy ass high or crazy ass low doesn't mean your adrenals are fine at all. Utter, completely asinine. Okay. Zero training in that. So that's what you're told. Your adrenals were fine because they drew some cortisol. Okay.
Correct. Now, when I got my test results back and I had basically zero DHEA.
Yes.
And basically low everything.
Below everything category. And
So
you know what that means. You know what that means.
So
that's a really common pattern of low everything, but it is a pattern that you do not want to miss if you have autoimmunity. So you found out you were low everything. It confirmed and affirmed that not only did you have adrenal fatigue, but your ovaries were completely drained and exhausted as well. All your hormonal systems were shutting down.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in a sense, my doctor was right when she said, you don't have any hormones left.
Wait a minute.
Right away.
She was right. She was completely wrong.
Yes.
Because a 57-year-old woman shouldn't have the hormones of an 87-year-old woman. And that's not true. Your hormones are lower. That doesn't mean you have no hormones. That's bull. That's wrong. Completely asinine, wrong, right? So you should have lower hormones of a 57-year-old that is balanced. That's what optimal is for you. You shouldn't have no hormones. And if the fact that you have no hormones, that is a huge red flag of a serious autoimmune issue, because that's a red flag for someone who has basically an autoimmune disease that's attacking your hormone making organs, not just your skin. So I look at low everything very seriously. Nobody who's 57-year-old should have no hormones. That's a big problem. And a lack of understanding around that, literally, this is life-saving. This is a life-saving piece of information and pattern for people to understand. But how are you going to know unless you actually test your hormones and are educated on these patterns? Because I'll tell you right now, you show those hormones to your OB/GYN, they're like, see, I told you had no hormones. Bullshit. That's not true. That is not true. You should have lower hormones that's balanced for a 57-year-old. You shouldn't have no hormones. That's completely wrong, wrong, wrong. Huge impact on autoimmune disease and your quality of life. That's what you found out.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you, when I started taking the DHEA spray, I felt different within a week.
Well, yeah.
My anxiety level went from a 9 to a 2 or a 3 in 1 week.
Which means Val isn't weak. Val isn't cuckoo. Val doesn't need an antidepressant. Val doesn't need to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor. There is nothing mentally wrong with Val except her hormones were in the tank inappropriately for her age level, and she has an autoimmune disease, and it can be fixable even within days. Big difference, right? So within days of working on hormone balance, you notice anxiety level went from 9 to 2. What else did you notice, Val?
My mindset was a huge, huge, huge factor. Mm-hmm. So, I got the food mapping back, and I have to tell you, it was a little discouraging to find out that I had absolutely zero food issues.
You were discouraged, huh?
I was like, I want there to be something wrong with me.
Because there is, and it's something else. It's so important. So this is a big mindset thing, Val. You know this, where I say what it's not, getting data that shows what it's not is even more important than finding out what it is. Because you've eliminated that whole category, which means, hallelujah, you don't have to go in another freaking elimination diet. Yeah. That's a celebration.
Oh, yes.
That's a win.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you did food mapping and it showed nothing.
It showed nothing. It was interesting too, because I had gone to a functional medicine doctor and he did a food sensitivity test, but it was it was like an allergen test. And he told me I had 75 foods I couldn't eat. And that really kind of set the ball rolling as to, I became afraid to eat anything because I didn't want the rash to get worse. And when I would eliminate something, I would think, well, my rash isn't getting worse because I eliminated this food.
So you're guessing back and forth the whole
So
time.
it was a serious whack-a-mole. It was ridiculous.
This is a really important point, Val, because a lot of people say, I don't need to do this program. I don't need to understand what this food mapping she created is. Yeah, you do, because people think I can go get my doctor, whether it's functional, local, or online. I can go order a food sensitivity test and I'm good. Well, none of those are accurate, including the ones at your doctor. It's so important for people to understand that. First of all, a lot of those tests are crap. Secondly, a lot of doctors, even the doctors who order those tests, are not trained in autoimmunity. So they don't understand that people with autoimmune disease have a lot of false positives and negatives. And they erroneously tell you, oh, you're allergic to 75 foods. That is impossible. That's really impossible. But yet that's the typical result that people get from working with one of these functional doctors and getting one of these food sensitivity testing. And from your testing, you found out none of those were your real food sensitivities.
Correct.
Now, how do you know this is accurate data? How do you know he wasn't right and my process is wrong? What were your results? Like, what happened once you implemented not only the food mapping, right? When you found out food mapping was negative, we're able to focus on more real reasons, which was hormonal. What else?
Stress management.
Anxiety. What about digestion?
And digestion. Exactly.
Digestion is huge. People think it's all about food allergy, and people don't realize that the biggest GI gut issue that people have with autoimmunity is freaking a digestion problem. And they focus on food elimination rather than the real culprit, which is your digestion sucks, people. And that's the real cause of all the downstream effects of it. So what did you figure out about your digestion?
Well, from day one, I cut out gluten.
Yes, you have to with autoimmune.
That was it. That was,
you have to.
It was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Hell yeah, right?
Because I'm a total bready, right? I love bread.
Total bready who's going bald. And yet eliminating 75 other foods that don't matter.
Right.
That's where you were at.
Exactly.
That's bull. That's bull.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously taking out the gluten and then, just adding in, probiotics and the things to help my gut, the
digestion.
Yes.
Digestion. Well, you could take collagen all you want. You weren't even absorbing it. Digestion Correct. Is what breaks down the food so they're absorbable. Right?
Correct.
So people spend all this money on collagen, supplements, fish oil, all this stuff, which is great, right? But they're not even digesting it, right? Correct. Do you know one of the number one causes of hair loss is digestion?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Digestion, hello. And, you've been through the modules where I teach about digestion, all the different layers of digestion. I mean, it could be as much as hydration, mastication, chewing. It could be stomach acid. It could be poor fat digestion, pancreatic digestion, poor gut bacteria, not fermenting. Like there are all these steps that's jacked up for those with autoimmunity. And which I'm just curious. I don't know if you know the answer, but I'm hoping. Do you have any idea, based on all the education you have and your process in the program, which digestion problems you might have?
Well, I think definitely before the program, not drinking enough water was huge.
Yeah,
I wasn't drinking enough water. I was not paying attention to my thirst mechanism that you teach so much about, and so upping the water was a huge deal for me.
Yeah,
and my pattern of eating has been like I'm a starving animal out in the middle of the wilderness, choking my food down as fast as possible.
Which was contributing to your hair loss.
Yes. So really taking the time, and that's hard. It's a very hard habit to overcome.
You know what's harder? The intense itching and pain on your scalp.
Yeah, true.
Come on. This is a million times easier than living with that crap.
Yes. Yeah.
You say it's hard. This is 10 times easier than that.
This is true. So just really paying attention to, what I'm eating, the combinations of foods that I'm eating, how often I'm eating.
That's blood sugar mastery, by the way. You're telling everybody that not only is it digestion and gut healing, it is blood sugar mastery. High, low blood sugars flare the autoimmune attack against those damn hair follicles, everybody. Yeah.
The other thing is that, I became like the master of examining my poop in the toilet. So It's like, oh my God, there are floaters. Okay, that's not a good thing.
I love it. But curious, Val, what happened with your scalp? What happened to your rash? What happened to your hair? What happened to your scalp?
Well, here's what's interesting. Throughout the program, I was pretty stable. I mean, I was stable in the fact that I wasn't having a lot of resolution other than the mental side. The anxiety went way down. I started not obsessing about caring about things so much. I started doing the priming exercises, which, by the way, I absolutely love. Love, love, love the priming. It's a wonderful way to start the day.
Yes, it is. These are mindset practices. That is a huge part of our program.
Yes.
But people want the down and dirty. What happened with your scalp? What happened with your pain, itching?
So now that I've graduated, it's been about 3 weeks since I graduated. All of a sudden, my hands, which I really haven't had any pain, but just Grotten's papules, my knuckles are all flaming red and swollen. And even though with no pain, just really dry skin. All of a sudden in the last week, I've seen probably about a 75% improvement in my skin. I'm still battling with it, but I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Because my rash is getting better slowly but surely.
That's the thing, is people have to understand the autoimmune timeline, which is that, there is like progression of autoimmunity all the time. I did a training on autoimmune timeline last week. If anybody's interested in watching, type in chat the autoimmune timeline. But the other thing is that recovery around these autoimmune issues. If someone were to ask you right now, how long do you think before this program did you think realistically, even working with the best doctors in the world, best medicines in the world, how long do you think it'll take for your hair to grow back or for the scalp pain to be gone? I'm curious.
Well, doctors were telling me 3 to 5 years.
Exactly. Realistically, this is a 3 to 5 year process under the best of circumstances with all the most powerful meds on the planet. And we're just talking now 10 weeks of working with us so far. And she's already starting to see results. And what I like to interview people right at the end of just working with us 2 months, but I'm telling you, this is the first 1% of results. I would love to interview you again in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months or even 3 years for people to really see what these results are. In a sense, I'm shooting myself in the foot by interviewing someone right at the end of the program. People think, oh, that's the best it's going to be. This is the worst it's going to be. And it's only going to get better and better. So what you've already noticed in your hand is that the skin and swelling in your hand is already down 75%. Just in the last week.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable difference that I was kind of just floating along. And then all of a sudden, boom, I noticed a difference. Last week, I went for a week-long backpacking trip in Death Valley. And it really was the first time in about a year that I started pooping regularly. And I mean, like, I have to jump out of the tent at 3:00 in the morning to do a shovel walk. That's a little scary, but nonetheless, I was super happy because I think a year's worth of stuff was coming out of me.
Yeah.
And incidentally, at the same time, that's about the same time where my skin started really clearing up. So I was like, bingo, maybe pooping regularly equals healthy, happy skin.
Well, Val, this proves my point, which I always talk about in the program. Your outside skin is a reflection of what's happening on your inside skin. And, she mentioned that she was constipated all the time, right? And since she took the methylprednisolone. And notice, interestingly, when she started to poop regularly, guess what? Removing all those toxins through regular daily bowel movement is going to clear up the toxins on the outside with the skin. So I love that you're finally linking the two and it's tangible. Like, yeah. I don't just recommend shit that doesn't work. I recommend shit that works, explain the why, and you have tangible, immediate results with it.
You can imagine me squatting in the middle of the desert
and like, yes,
thank you,
yes, yes. You're welcome. And as far as head is concerned, what have you noticed any change in pain or intensity of itching, or have you noticed any of the hair changes yet? You may not. This is too early.
Yeah, well, my hair is growing back. So
you were holding out on us? Her hair is growing back and she was holding out on us? I had to fish for that one?
Well, it's like unbelievably short, considering it was down to my waist before, but it is growing back. I'm not having any more hair loss, other than just the normal little amount of hair loss. I mean, I still have a lot of scalp itching, but at least I don't, look like I've done some crazy thing with the razor on my head, you know, where I have huge clumps of baldness.
And realistically, in just a matter of a month or two, which is when she implemented these changes, it is impossible for people to have complete resolution of these symptoms. You're lucky if anybody out there knows this, for a medical outcome where there's already decreased pain and swelling in the hand skin, and then there's already hair regrowth. This is really a fast time frame. When I look at hair regrowth, I look at the process of anywhere from 6 to 18 months for your hair to actually really, because there's a lot of follicles. Some follicles are going to be permanently damaged. Those are not coming back. But the majority of the hair follicles for most people who I work with are reversible. They're in that under attack, not permanently damaged. And so those hairs are growing back. And how long does it take to grow hair? Months and even a year. Like if your hair is cut really short, I've done this once where I cut my hair really short. It took me 2 years to fully grow back, even to this length. So it takes time for hair to grow back, but already you're seeing regrowth.
Yes.
I love that. What do you think? Okay, so you've already mentioned the how, right? You mentioned the how, which is that you feel like addressing hormones was already huge. You mentioned blood sugar, you mentioned hydration, you mentioned digestion. Okay, so those are some of the secret sauce. Now, was there something surprising about this program that you really felt like contributed to your outcome? Something that people wouldn't anticipate? Because people come in here saying, oh, it's a doctor program. You're going to learn a lot of medical information from this doctor. Is there anything surprising that shocked you about the program?
I think the most shocking thing was the accountability portion.
Yeah. How was the accountability built in? Let's talk about that.
Well, I think in your weekly meetings, everybody was held accountable. Everybody was potentially going to be called out.
It's a community. You're doing this, going through this as a community.
Yes, which I really love because I'm a sponge for knowledge. Yes. And I like to know, I have to have answers. I just can't have a doctor say, oh, take this med because. I have to know why. And you explained everything was why. And after taking copious notes and going through the modules every single week, the knowledge is priceless. The knowledge is priceless.
But here's the deal, Val. Knowledge, information you can get on Google anywhere in 2 minutes. Okay. Which you did for a long time.
This is not that kind of knowledge.
People think knowledge is just information. What's the difference between the knowledge you gained here versus the information you were Googling for years?
Well, because the knowledge I gained here was personalized to me.
Yeah, that's the issue. We're in the age of information where anything you can get the answer to in 20 seconds, but none of it is personalized to you as your why, right? And Here's another concept. I know this to be true. We're in an age where everything is marketed with, here's the how. Okay, here's the how. Giving people just the how doesn't work. Giving people the why in a community setting with accountability makes the how easy, right? So the why is the most important thing. Like, why does digestion matter? Why does hydration matter? Why does going gluten-free matter? Why does your hormones matter? Nobody out there, no doctor out there understands it for themselves, and they're not able to teach it to somebody. Here's the thing. I tell people, this on the first call in your orientation, I actually say, hey, if I do my job right, which I always do, at the end of this, you're not going to just get all this information, which you will. But the most important thing, if I do my job right, is you're going to learn how to think like me, which is a really tall order. I'm going to teach you how to think like me. But I think the way I teach is to teach people the why. And nobody's teaching the why. And then that way, if you know the why, then the how becomes really easy and effortless. And you have accountability built in throughout the entire program. So you can't just be like, oh, I learned this knowledge and now it's another thing I'm going to fail at. There is no failure here. You cannot fail here because there is built-in accountability. Now, there's weekly meetings where you said, I will be calling things out and people out. Any other accountability that was surprising to you in this community setting?
I was really surprised at how helpful the den meetings were, because it really gave us an opportunity to talk freely with another and with each other and our den leader. At first, it was a lot of mindset work, but then especially towards the end, when we were able to really freely discuss between ourselves, what our concerns were, what kind of a week we're having, that was really freeing because, when you deal with a long-term illness, you get to a point where you think, oh, my friends and my family don't want to hear about it again. Every day is, how do you feel? Oh, I feel terrible. How are you doing? Well, it's the same. But in this small group, you feel like, you can share all your ups and downs and everyone completely understands what you're dealing with. Because, I had someone once say to me, oh, I understand dermatomyositis. It must be like poison oak. And it's like,
no,
sorry.
No, you don't get it.
But people in the group, they get it. They understand dealing with things for a long, and really, I have a lot of compassion for a lot of people in the group because some people have multiple diagnoses and they've been suffering for years and years and years, if not decades.
Yeah.
So it really is a wonderful, wonderful community setting. And I think I've built friendships with the people in my den that will continue for a long time.
I know you have. And that's the huge part, is that even after the program, the support among your micro community within your pod meetings and also within the alumni group is incredible. Incredible. Okay. Val, what was your favorite thing about working with us?
Well, I have to say, probably you, number one, because I just find you to be an electric personality that is addictive. You are addictive.
Oh, so, thank you. I've never heard it put that way. I love that.
So, and I mean in a good way. So, really logging on every week was like probably one of the highlights of my week. So that number one. Number two, the community aspect. I really love that. And the variation of different aspects of the program. There's a lot of variety and there is so much learning material. There is a video for just about everything. I haven't even gotten through all the videos yet, but I have to tell you, probably aside from my own growth and the knowledge that I've acquired, probably because I'm a pleaser person, probably my most favorite aspect is what I've been able to do for my family members.
Well, let's talk about family members. What do you think has been the impact? We've heard the personal results and impact it's had on your life. What has been the impact on your family members or others in your life?
Because I don't share a lot with my family, they don't necessarily, and I'm like the martyr. I'm like, nothing ever happens to me. I'm
the
ready
pleaser
for everything.
And the martyr.
Yeah. So
most common autoimmune personality type, just so you know.
Type A personality, the whole thing. And so when I got sick, my kids didn't even know really like how to even handle me because I was like an alien had been taken over my body or something. Oh. But we've had a lot of conversations about their own health and even my husband's own health. And it has been pretty darn amazing, the discussions that we've had about, different diagnoses. And I think you should talk to your doctor about this. Or, my husband had a thyroid panel done and his TSH came out really high. And I said, I really want the rest of your thyroid done. And his doctor refused it and they wanted to put him on medication. And I said, no, we're going to get a thyroid panel at Ulta Labs for you. And the numbers came out completely different. And I was so thankful that I had the information
and the resources to order labs for your partner as well.
I'm like, no, this is not enough. We are going to get other labs because it would have not been good if he would have started that medication. Well, because the numbers were wrong.
Correct. You know what the problem is? Faulty thermostat. We talked about that.
Exactly.
Now you know, everybody.
So that was a huge, huge win for him and me.
Val, what I'm hearing on that is it up-leveled the conversation between you and your family around their health, but it also up-leveled the conversation you guys were having with your doctors about your health.
Exactly.
I love that. Boo. Booyah. I love that. Boom. Mic drop. Thank you. All right. Question, Val. Why did you almost not join the program?
Well, honestly, being so inundated with BS on the internet and trying so many different diets and, listening to, world-renowned doctors who didn't necessarily have the answers, had lots of, I've done all these tests and these are the results and this and that, and these are the results on these meds. And I thought, oh my God, this is just another, it's just another doctor pushing their agenda.
Mm.
And the difference is this one's an investment. And I thought, I mean, I was super skeptical. Even after listening to a lot of the testimonials, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but they are them and I am me.
Will this work for me was the main thing.
Will this work for me? And it wasn't until you said, I don't care what your diagnosis is.
I actually
You have an autoimmune disease, right?
I even say it more strongly. I don't give a rat's ass what your diagnosis is. You have an autoimmune disease. We need to stop the fire hose of what's feeding it, period.
Exactly.
Right? But yet so many people are like, but I have this super rare special zebra disease. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Val, you actually don't.
Yeah.
Right. But people are, their doctors believe it. So then they believe it's not your fault. Your doctors are even telling you that. But the fact is, I don't care that they or you think it's a super special rare autoimmune disease. I know what's feeding it. So the most important thing is to work with you to identify what's feeding it. So super skeptical, didn't believe it would work for you. What made you make a switch and actually decide to invest in this outcome? What turned you?
Before the program, I was really at my wit's end. I mean, I was just really miserable. And I thought, well, you know, I've done all these other things. I really have run out. I mean, I probably tried 6 or 7 different diets, stress management, meditation, all that stuff. And I was kind of really at my wit's end. I was so miserable, Dr. Maggie, that I thought if my doctors were right and they were saying that I could be dealing with this for the rest of my life, I mean, I was seriously like, I don't know if I can live with this. I mean, that's how my husband would come home and I'd be curled up in a fetal position on the kitchen floor crying because it was the only thing I could do to keep myself from jumping out the window.
So really the severity of the symptoms and
it was terrible.
And having tried all the other options and realizing nothing else worked.
I really had no idea how itch could be so life altering. There are a lot of things that are life altering, but I had no idea how itch could be so bad and relentless. Like it would wake me up in the middle of the night, keep me up for hours. So I just decided, you know what? I have nothing to, what do I have to lose? If anything, I only have something to gain. Right. After listening to all the testimonies, I thought,
well, some people would argue you have money to lose.
I mean, I will not lie. It's an investment, but I cannot put into words like, okay, how many times do I have to go to the doctor and how much money am I spending on prescriptions and how much money am I spending on supplements? I can't tell you the amount of supplements. Once I knew what I needed and what I didn't need, how many supplements I threw in the garbage.
I know that's the thing is people think like a lot of functional doctors or naturopaths or people out there just there to sell you supplements or green medicine. I'm the opposite. I'm like any supplement you take, understand supplements are just green medication. And so this decision has to be made based on your data and personal problems that you know exist, and they have to work and they have to be taken at the lowest dose and shortest time possible. That is my philosophy. Someone's like, oh, you own a supplement company. You shouldn't be saying that. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Take that to the bank, right? How much money you save on supplements that don't work.
Then just throwing away things like I found several supplements in my cupboard that had gluten in it. You know,
God, that makes me so mad.
Like, what is this doing in here? I'm like throwing them over my shoulder, the melatonin and the biotin and the, you know, all this other stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? You know, and it never would even dawn on me to look at the list of ingredients to see what was in there. So, you know, the fact that I saved a lot of money, you know, once I threw everything away, I saved a lot of money just by knowing which supplements I in fact need.
Yeah.
And the fact that you know, I'm in charge of my own health. I really do feel like I don't have to email my doctor every time I have a question because I know a lot of the answers already. And peace of mind. I mean, knowing that I can eat those 75 foods that my previous doctor told me to eliminate. You know, I can enjoy going out to eat with my family. I can enjoy cooking and eating with them and not having to worry about things. There's a peace of mind to it that is absolutely priceless.
I love that. Thank you. So Val, thank you so much. And Val, you thought you had a super special rare zebra disease. So imagine you're talking to 10,000 other Vals out there with their super special rare zebra disease who's skeptical as hell. What would you say to that, Val?
Well, I would say, number one, you're not defined by your disease.
Yeah.
You are not your disease, which is, all consuming when you're in the throes of it, but you're not your disease, and all autoimmunity is targeted the same way in this program. Mm-hmm. It's all under one big umbrella. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, the biggest thing is just to know disease does not define you.
Awesome. Well, Val, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If you want to learn more about us, there's a link above to start a chat with our team. If you have any questions about our program or about your autoimmune issue, comment in the comment section below. Now, make sure you check your message requests a few hours later or the next day, because there will be resources from our team to share with you, because we literally have full guides. We have written material. We have guides around hair loss, videos, and not just hair loss. Come on, that is one of those most common symptoms for autoimmunity, but I don't care what your symptom is. List it, post it. I don't care what your diagnosis is. List it, post it. I got a resource for you. So make sure you put it in the comment section, and then make sure you check your message requests under your Facebook Messenger, and we can help. Thanks, everybody.